Did you know Fast Growing Trees is America's largest and most trusted online nursery with thousands of trees and plants and over 2 million happy customers? Whether you're planting fruit trees, adding privacy, brightening things up with flowers, or bringing in houseplants, Fast Growing Trees has it all. Even better, they can help you find options that are right for your climate, your space, and lifestyle. Click Order Grow. Every plant arrives healthy with the Alive and Thrive guarantee straight to your door. So if you're ready to get planting, this is the moment. Right now, they have great deals on spring planting essentials, up to half off on select plants. And listeners to our show get 20% off their first purchase when using the code WWO at checkout. That's an additional 20% off. Better plants and better growing at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code WWO at checkout. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code WWO. Now's the perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Use WWO to save today. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Go to growingfasttrees.com for details. This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
We start with the Carolina Panthers. We're going to go through the division in the order in which the teams finished last year, which obviously is the reverse of their draft order. The Panthers have the number 19 selection in the first rounds. They have 7 picks altogether. Looking at NFL mock draft database, their consensus first round pick for the Panthers is Kenyon Sadiq. So NFL mock draft database looks at 72 different mock drafts and chooses a player for each team based on what the preponderance of those 72 drafts suggest. So they're not particularly weighted, but it's an interesting exercise in that it tells you what most of the drafts, or at least 20 to 30 to 40% in some cases, are saying. They have Kenyon Sadiq going to the Panthers. Shane Brennan, what do you think the Panthers need to be doing in this draft?
Thank you very much, Conor Brophy. I was delighted to be here. I was joking before we came on the air, by the way, that I've had so much orange chocolate this year. My name might as well be Terry. So in which case, the name mix-up is understandable. Interesting look at the Panthers here. I mean, we're coming into a situation where they were quite aggressive in free agency in terms of bringing in Jalen Phillips, David Lloyd, and Rasheed Walker as offensive tackles. So there's a lot of different ways they can come at this. Like as much as the consensus pick sort of has them going for tight end, I think there's a lot of different ways to go here. I definitely see them moving towards sort of showing up that offensive line again. We saw with Bryce Young in many areas of the season last year how he needs two things. You need a really strong running game to complement him. And look, they've let Rico Dowdle go out of the building, so it'll be interesting to see what way they will try to supplement the run game now with that, considering how explosive Dowdle was in many of those key games that brought the Panthers into a position where they could win the NFC South last year. But I think fundamentally, the run game and the pass game starts in the offensive line. It seems boring, and we talk about this a lot with a lot of teams that, line play is what they need to focus on first. But let's be fair about this. Bryce Young needs time to think when he's throwing the ball. He's not the greatest improviser in the world. So what are you going to give him? We saw at many different points last year, if he's given that extra second, that he can go outside the numbers, and when he decides to go a pass out wide, he can be very accurate. How do you maximize that? You try to shore up on the offensive line, and for that reason, I think Monroe Freeling, for example, offensive tackle out of Georgia, if he's still available around 19th, might be an interesting pick. But what you need is somebody who will give you that immediate impact. You outlined earlier the fact that they have a fairly plain draft. They have a first, second, third, fourth, 2 fifths, and a sixth. So coaching is going to be key. They don't have a huge amount of draft capital to trade. I don't think they're going to make any major trades. I think the second round might be where they dip in for a running back to try and sort of build up the skill positions there. But I think first and foremost, if you're like your defense, you've proven is a pretty solid unit. You don't need to spend first round capital on that, as much as I see a lot of people having them taking safety or something in that second round of the defense. I think first and foremost, go for offensive line. That's what I would do if I was the Carolina Panthers.
Craig, I have the most unscientific method for picking which teams are going to thrive in this year's NFL. And bear with me now, because I was looking at the owners' meeting in Phoenix, and in the head coach's picture and around the breakfast, I was looking at which coaches look like they've had the most restful offseason and who's looking the best. Dave Canales looks fantastic. He looks fit. He looked rested. There's no bags under his eyes like other coaches. They look best. Like, I would not have wanted to be standing or sitting beside Dave Canales in the head coach photo, because whoever was next to him was going to look like, you know, what, $10 of shit in a £5 bag, to use that colourful expression. And I can't remember who it was, but yeah, I felt really sorry for him in the photo. Dan Campbell looked really relaxed. Dan Campbell's grown the hair out. He looked like he's had a pretty chill time. So even though the bookies have the Panthers as last in the NFC South, despite having won it last year, which tells you a lot, I suppose, about the confidence that they do or don't have in Bryce Young, and also the changes that other teams have made around them, to be fair. I'm picking the Panthers to win this division on that unscientific method. You probably have a much more scientific and data-driven way of assessing this, because you're a man who does the research and doesn't just go on gut feel. Tell my Grand National bets always work out really well as well. Oh, that horse has a pretty name.
I'm quite surprised that Dave Canales is quite well rested, because I do actually think they have a really, really big problem in the terms of how they go in this first round of the draft, because Ike Ekwonu went down in the playoffs, and he has, by all accounts, a pretty significant knee injury that they still don't know what the timeline is for his return. So I think Shane's kind of nailed it a little bit in the fact that offensive tackle might have to be the way that they go, and maybe look at someone who's more of a stopgap who can then push into guard. I kept having a look at a few different mock drafts and doing some mock drafts of my own to try and see who was falling down to that range, because obviously they're picking 19. So it's likely that they miss on Fanu, they miss on Lumu, they miss on Marigoa. I think Bama's 6'7" behemoth that is Caden Proctor, he is the man if they're going to do it, because I think a lot of people see him more of being just a ridiculously sized guard who can just push in. But if Ekwonu's not back in time, then he could quite easily potentially go out, start at left tackle for them, work out there until he comes back, and then move inside. I know it's not ideal to do that with a rookie, but I think if anyone can do it, it's someone of that size who could probably just anchor it for a bit. It's funny because Shane then turned around and said, I'm not going to look at safety. And I think if Ekwonu is healthy and they are confident, safety is where they should go. They have Trevor Morig, who have signed a 3-year deal. They don't have a free safety to complement him very well. They have Nick. I
can't remember a draft of recent vintage where so many teams actually seems to be looking for a safety.
Yeah.
And high up.
Yeah. And I they're not going to get Caleb Downs. There's no way he falls to 19. But someone like is it Dylan Thieneman? I think if he was to fall, I think they would snap him up. You know, he played a lot of box safety, so he can do free safety if necessary. Could be a difference maker. Would play very well for Oregon. So I think one of those two is pretty obvious. They probably still need wide receiver help. I think McMillan is great, but Coker's not consistent enough, and Xavier Legette is even less consistent. So they could go there, but I think you probably look at third or fourth. They'll probably have a flyer on one of them.
Ciaran, the Panthers got to the playoffs last year, and don't mean to disrespect them, but it was more about what other teams didn't do at times than it was what the Panthers did do. They, in fairness to them, kept their heads while literally all about them in the division were losing theirs, waited for the Bucks to step on a couple of rakes. So they are not going to be taken for granted where they are in the division, and they do have work to do.
Oh, they have a huge amount of work to do, and I agree with Shane in what they need on the line. I definitely agree with Craig on what they need at safety too. But I mean, this is just the definition of an average team. I mean, the whole division was pretty average last year, and you remember the Panthers went through that stretch of win-loss from October 19th onwards. So they did. It's not exactly like they set the division on fire. Don't forget they had a losing season, 8-9, and I think that's the 8th straight losing season they've had in Carolina. So it's not exactly a solid kind of foundation for success. Now, saying that, the owners
dumped over them, they went down swinging in the playoffs, and they did a really good cut at the Rams.
They did, and it did, but it didn't look great the first half. It had blowout written all over it, if we remember that particular game. But interesting to talk about the the head coaches meetings last week, Canales was quoted as saying, "I don't believe in drafting for depth." So he's in the position right now where he's got to win because he's going into year 3. He's got another year with Bryce Young. And you remember what they did last year? Who did they pick? Old Ted McMillan, and that turned out to be a masterstroke. So they're going to be looking at offense, in my opinion. You look at the stats, you look across the board. Defense, pretty good. I'm not going to say, they were kind of middle of the road. But with offense, total offense, they were 27th. They were 26th in passing offense, 27th in scoring offense, and 24th in red zone offense. That lends itself to let's look at some offensive weapons because as much as they need to, build that O-line, and they have a decent stash right now at O-line. They picked up Luke Fortner. They've got Taylor Moton at right tackle. Ekwonu, who knows what's going to happen there, but that's a pivotal position that they're going to have to address in the draft at some stage. Whether it's one with, again, I don't know if Fano is going to be there, but definitely Caden Proctor. That's all these tackles in the draft are 6'8", 6'7". They're all about 330, 340. So these are absolutely, man mountains. So there's not a huge amount to pick between the top 3 tackles in the draft, but they've got to improve on the offense. I mean, they backdoored into the division title. It was just a matter of a factor that the Bucks and the Falcons just took losses or took wins off each other and just couldn't finish it in the end. So I'm concerned with their running back situation. It's almost like running back by committee with Chuba Hubbard, A.J. Dillon, Jonathan Brooks, and Travis's brother, Mr. Trevor. Not really blown away by the talent there. There's no real RB1 in that pile. Brooks has got a lot of upside. But I think at this stage, tackle is definitely a need that you have to address. And probably like every other team in the draft, edge or pass rusher is probably going to be a spot they're going to have to address. Help for J.C. Horn. I mean, he can't do it all there himself. I mean, maybe another corner just to shore up that back four. So tight end, there's a couple of decent tight ends in there. Sadiq, he's probably going to be a target for some other teams. But overall, offense is going to have to be. I mean, if we're going by that quote from a Canales, we don't draft for depth, then he's looking to win now and take advantage of what happened last year and maybe grab another win or two just to make it not so tight in the end. Again, I do have questions about Bryce Young and his ability to lead a team, his durability. I think he kind of got away with it a little bit last year. Didn't set any offensive kind of mile markers out there. Kind of did just enough to get through. Probably played above his station against the Rams in the playoffs, which that probably gives the fans something to think about and say, you know what, maybe we can trust him in the big situations. But I'm still on the fence about Young and his ability to lead, because this is with all those losing seasons they've had in Carolina and what Canales is saying, they've got to win this year and they got to win now.